Awareness Month. Rho Omega has teamed up with Sisters Network Central Virginia Incorporated for an important discussion on early detection. We are so happy you are joining us today. So please participate, ask plenty of questions, continue to follow us on all social media and our website for many more community, engaging, and awareness events. Thank you for joining the Rho Omega chapter, and thank you to our co-chairman, J.L. Alexander and Dana Mayo, and Dr. Freeman as our moderator for putting on this great event for us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you much. So now let me introduce you to our wonderful panelists, Ms. Gloria Harris of the Sisters Network. Ms. Harris is a native of Utica, New York, and is the seventh child of 14. Her parents were committed, determined, and accepted their responsibility to mold her and her siblings into who they are today. In her household, hard work and education were requirements and are the foundations to her existence, instilled in her at a very early age. Mrs. Ellis graduated from Utica Free Academy High School and continued on to Syracuse University, where she obtained, a bachelor's degree in social work. In 2018, she graduated from Grace Evangelistic Ministries Bible Institute. Mrs. Harris spent a large portion of her career at Crater Youth Care Commission working with juveniles as the director, and retiring in 2003 after 28 very full years of service. During her tenure, she volunteered to serve on the advisory board for foster grandparents for almost 20 years as well. Following her decision to retire and for approximately an additional 10 years, she returned to the workforce as an independent contractor as a qualified mental health professional for both adults and children. Mrs. Harris's life has been dedicated to helping or giving to others in the community. Her primary focus has always been on finding ways to brighten someone's day, whether it be through acts of service or words of encouragement and kindness. Her husband of 44 years has been instrumental with the planning and implementation of various community service projects. They have one daughter who has worked alongside them tirelessly, financially, and through deed. She is a proud breast cancer survivor who was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer at stage 3 in 2013. Her motto for life, which sustains her, is to consistently remember the miraculous works of God. She believes in miracles, for they are happening every day. Mrs. Harris, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank you on behalf of Sisters Network to allow us an opportunity to share some information with you and some of the work that we're doing in the community. So thank you for having us. Now, I would like to start telling you a little bit about my history or my journey concerning breast cancer. In 2013, like was mentioned, I was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer stage 3. I had no idea at the time what was going on, but I can tell you what happened along my journey. I went in, I had my mammograms. I had, I also had a biopsy, and the mammogram and the ultrasound came back inclusive. In other words, they could not determine that I had cancer or anything. So my primary physician got me in touch with an oncologist. This was my first oncologist. And he said that it was not cancer, that it was an infection. But later on, we found out that no, in fact, it was not an infection. It was definitely cancer. By the time I had discovered it and the doctor came to tell me the exact specific information, it had already spread to my lymph nodes, which made it more difficult for them to determine how to treat it. I was not comfortable with the first oncologist, so I made up my mind that maybe I got to think about this, and went on to get a second oncologist. And that was the best thing I could ever done, because the first thing I asked him, did you believe in God? Do you believe in God? And he said, yes. I said, well, I'm at the right place. But he told me straight up, he was very honest, that the journey would be long and maybe sometimes difficult, but he believed he could cure me. I said, yes, you could with God's help. I believe you. And so I will begin my journey. What happened? I started with chemotherapy. That consisted of 16 weeks of chemotherapy. During that time, I also had what was called a port on my right side of the chest, where they could take my blood work and stuff, and they would just stick it through the port. But my body rejected the port. So about 2 or 3 weeks after I started that, I became septic. In other words, my body, it was poisonous to my body. And then the health department, all other agencies had to get in and make sure, that nothing else was going wrong with me. So I got through that stage. And then the next thing becomes surgery. I had a double mastectomy because of the lymph nodes on my right side of my body. It had spread there, which means it was not good. So I had to go through the surgery. After I completed the surgery and had the double mastectomy, I had to go through radiation. Radiation consisted of 29 sessions of radiation. And I made it through that process. But during the process, I also had, after everything was over with, I had blood clots, lymphedema, but I was never discouraged, and I never asked the Lord, why me? I always said to myself, why not me? It was my prayers, God's grace and mercy that brought me through that process, and I was able to sustain. And through that process, I made a promise to the Lord that I would serve others and help others as a result of being a survivor of breast cancer. And that is exactly what I did. And that is why I was with Sisters Network. I was with a unit, a group of people who had also had their own experiences. Because when you go through cancer, it's different for each and every person that has been diagnosed. Based on your diagnosis and stuff, your treatment could be entirely different from mine. But I felt at home with the Sisters Network, that they encouraged me, they supported me, and I wanted to be a part of that process. So that explains my journey as a survivor. And I'm so glad that I followed the instructions and was obedient what God told me to do. And that was to pray. So, because praying is your way out of being in the valley. By being in the valley, you can understand why it's so important to get to the mountaintop, because everything does not occur at the mountaintop. It occurs in the valley. How you handle your life, how you handle your crisis, and how you believe and obey God. And that's it for my journey. Now, I would like to go on and talk, if I can. Are we going to start the slides? First of all, Sister Network is a first national African-American breast cancer survivorship organization. And then Sister Karen Jackson established it and founded it in 1994. There's 20 chapters across the nation with over 2,500 members. That includes, we have 3 levels. We have the survivors and associates who help us. And then we have volunteers who also give up freely and gladly give their hours to us to help improve the information concerning breast cancer. We are committed to a devastating impact that breast cancer has had on the African community. Next. Sisters Network's creed is, in unity, there is strength. And in strength, there is power. In power, there is change. Our national slogan is, stop the silence. Next. National initiatives. We have 3 programs that we actually do. The Pink Ribbon Awareness Initiative is our faith-based educational program that we go into the churches and we share with the members. We attend service. First of all, we participate in the service, and then One of the sisters from Sister Network agrees to get up and to speak about their journey. What was it like for them when they were going through cancer? And at the same time, we offer them information on resources, the best health practices in terms of how they can improve their health. And if they are diagnosed with cancer, we let them know that we're there for them to answer questions, to support them and give them resources. The second part is the Gift for Life block walk, where we participate in the community. We provide, again, information about programs for cancer survivorship to volunteers, and we canvass the neighborhoods so that we can knock on doors, meet with these folks personally, and tell them that we're here to help support you, give you some best health practices, what things work. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to try to answer them for you. We also do, depending on resources and stuff, free mammograms also offered at a mobile unit. The third one is the Breast Cancer Assistance Program. It's called the BCAP program. We provide services to women who might be having financial difficulty. We look at things such as the rent, copay, water, and electricity. Next. What you see here on the screen to my left is the sister networks from Central Virginia who obviously attended the church service and they participated in the program. And again, they're there to be supportive and provide information. The top picture is the Gift of Life block walk, and they're there to participate in that. If you look at the bottom, you'll see some of the sisters from sister networks. They have the information out there. And if you can look on the screen, you'll see a breast mode. In other words, we try to help people do a breast exam by using a breast mode, explaining what is the best procedure in terms of getting the right angles and stuff, and to ask if they have any questions regarding cancer, or if they know someone who is in need of a support system. We try to help them with that as well. Next. Our Sunshine Bag program has been done throughout the United States for any woman who is going through treatment or has been diagnosed with cancer. We average about 40 bags a year. One of the best things about this Sun Bag program is that we have a writer by the name of Carolyn Adams who wrote a book. And it's excellent because it's an inspirational journey. So if you're inspired and stuff, we encourage others to write down what things inspire them as they're going through the process and anything that they might need to help them. We also have Dr. Patricia Gould. She does the one on the Cancer Act to cancer. So we have people coming in. But the most important thing is when we send out these sunshine bags to members or to someone who's been diagnosed with that, we're trying to encourage them, let them know that they're not alone, that we have their back, that we're supporting them. So we are very grateful. We receive lots of letters and calls about that, how appreciative they are that someone's paying attention, someone is helping them, someone is guiding them and directing them. Next. Now, the next is the Healthcare Fair, which was held in 2016 in Richmond, Virginia. The opportunity and the blessing of this is that mammograms were done from the University of Virginia. We had vendors booth, we had activities so the kids could, have a fun day at the same time while their parents can gather information and stuff. So that was very nice. But the amazing things is 1,000, we served 1,000 homes, canvassing the neighborhood, giving out the information, getting involved with the community. And it was a good day. It's a very good day. The next one is the Health Forum. This took place at 5th Baptist Church on Clay Street. And that was an opportunity to have the radiologist, the surgeon, the oncologist, and the plastic surgeon. They each gave a 20-minute presentation on their expertise in the field of breast cancer and stuff. If you look to the left, to the gentleman with the microphone in his hand, that was my doctor, my oncologist, Dr. Irving, Dr. William Irving. He is a great doctor. I loved him. He was patient with me. He answered my questions and he didn't lie and he didn't sugarcoat. that my road and journey to a healthy space was going to take some time. So I appreciate him. Next. Outreach events in the community. We have received invitations from numerous people based on breast health information, how pink ribbon, we demonstrate how to use the mold like I showed you earlier. And some of the outreach events included the city of Petersburg, the Triad program. We would work with the senior citizens. And as you see at the table, some of my sisters at that event was Francel and Francella. And they're helping to get the information out, to be there, to ask questions, to be supportive. Most importantly, the seniors know that they were not being left behind. They were getting important information too regarding the best health practices. Next. The 2020 virtual walk. This was a lot of fun. You know, due to the pandemic, we were sort of locked in. You couldn't communicate, and you didn't want to get anybody sick, and you yourself didn't want to get sick. So we decided to do the virtual walk. And what we did was participate in the volunteers outside in the community, so we would not get anyone sick. We had our volunteers opportunity to participate in community fundraising efforts, and we did safety. We thought about safety at home, but at the same time, we wanted to reach our neighbors and engage each other through the walk, through social media. So we put out some of this information on Facebook, and we put it out on our network system so that we could share that information. And we all know that Black Lives Matter, and we have to get Black women out there and inform them of what's going on. Even in the midst of the pandemic, cancer does not stop. So we still have to stay informed, reach out to those who need us, and that is the direction in which we need to move. Next. This is again, participants, not cancer patients over here, but participants agreeing to come out and participate. I believe it's in the Gift for Life walk. And then this one is two sisters in the neighborhood communicating out there doing the virtual walk. So that's been very helpful. Next. Next is breast cancer is the most fatal health issue for Black women. Next. These are some statistics. Black women have a 31% breast cancer mortality rate, the highest of any group in the United States, racial or ethnic group. Next. Black women are 42% more likely to die of breast cancer. Next. Black women account for 12.5% of all new breast cancer, 15.5% of all breast cancer deaths. Next. Black women under 35 get breast cancer at 2 times the rate of a white woman and die at 3 times the rate. Next. 5-year survival is what 81% for Black women versus 91% for white women. Next. 92% of Black women agree breast health is important. 25% of women have recently discussed it. 17% have taken steps to understand their risks. So that's the direction we want to move in, to increase, not have a high risk. And that's what we want to do, keep them informed. Next. Black women are often at a more advanced stage upon diagnosis. And that's what happened in my case. When I found out I had cancer, I was already at stage 3. Next. Black breast cancer survivors have a 39% higher risk of breast cancer reoccurrence. And that's why I had the double mastectomy, because the doctor told me, you may be well for 2 years, but more than likely, based on your history and what we know about inflammatory breast cancer, it is going to come back. I did not want to take that risk. I did not want to go through those things again. I made my decision to do a double mastectomy so that I can live. Next. Black women, triple negative breast cancer is wreaking havoc. And these are the things we need to know. Triple negative breast cancer are usually more aggressive, harder, more likely to come back in a recurrence. That cancers that are hormone receptor positive. The triple negative breast cancer is estrogen, rector negative, progesterone, rector negative, and HER2 negative. Next. 73% of Black moms are single moms. 70.5% of all Black working mothers are primarily moms, making them the primary, if not sole, economic provider for their families. Add breast cancer to that dynamics. Can you just imagine? What choice will a single woman make between missing work to go to chemo versus going to work to feed her kids? Next. Pervasive health insurance coverage disparities remain for Black women despite ACA. Nearly 14% of Black women are uninsured versus 8% of white women. 33% of Black women receive insurance through public programs. Nearly 1 in 5 low-income Black women is uninsured, compared to nearly 1 in 6 low-income white women. Black women in the South have the lowest rate of health insurance coverage among all Black women. That's why we're so concerned, especially with the elections going on, that there needs to be making a change so that we can make it affordable, that people can have a health care program, that they can go to the doctor immediately and be treated and not worried about how they're going to pay the bill, if they're going to be able to put food on the table, if they're going to be able to pay the lights. It's so important that we work toward educating them, helping them, and hoping that we're moving the president in the country in the right direction to solve some of these issues. Next. Not only is breast cancer more biologically aggressive in Black women, the disparity in breast cancer mortality also reflects social barriers that disproportionately affect Black women. These are three of the things that we must deal with: poverty barriers, lack of a primary care physician, inadequate health insurance, poor access to health care, cultural barriers, perceived invulnerability, cultural beliefs, religious beliefs, a general mistrust of the healthcare system, social justice barriers, racial profiling, discrimination, history of racism, and medical research. What do we do for prevention? Number one, early detection. That's so important. Early detection, diagnosis and incidence, treatment. Your treatment is so important that you must make sure that you ask questions. Certainly if you're not sure of what's going on, what treatment you'll go through, what's going to happen, what's the outcome, what happens after you have the treatment, where do you go from there, where are your resources in? Post-treatment and quality of life. Quality of life. You're still living, you still want to be able to enjoy life. And you can do that if you practice prevention and seek resources and help, survival and mortality. Next. Only 24% of Black stated that their doctors or other healthcare practitioners have ever spoken to them about medical research. Due to historical breaches of research ethics, Tuskegee, 1/3 of Black women believe that scientists cannot be trusted, compared to only 4% of the white women. Clinical trial recruiting lacks cultural sensitivity for the specific needs of Black women. For example, 37% of Black women versus 2% of white women prefer to be treated by a Black researcher. That's because they lack the trust in the doctor. We have not educated Black women about the mechanics of clinical research, resulting in uncertainty around the placebo myth and a very low understanding of standard of care. Black women face barriers in the form of social deterrence of health, including lack of access to quality care, lack of health insurance, costs, the necessary time investment, transportation, and inconvenient trial locations. Most important, current recruitment messaging and tactical approaches are dangerously ineffective. Next. Fear, stress, and mental illness are real. Black women need a relevant resource. 2014 study indicate that Black women experience emotional suppression, behavioral disengagement, experience increased levels of distress, and poor survival. Black women lack the space to talk about how their concerns went, unheard by a medical profession that screws white and male. Black women fear sharing their diagnosis with their families and communities because they are often the family breadwinner. And because of that fear, it slows down the process. It slows down their involvement and their need to tell someone else about their problems or issues and share the fear so there's no longer fear, but it's a reality of what you need to deal with. People won't even tell their families that they have breast cancer. They die because of a fear of going to the hospital, finding out something is wrong, and not able to financially afford it or put your family in a bind. With that fear, we wait. Next. There's just one more sheet, and there you go. Touch the Black Breast Cancer Alliance was established and founded by Ricky Fowley. She is responsible for the slides and the information that we got concerning the Black Breast Cancer Alliance. We are Sisters of Central Network. We are working with her in a group, cooperating together. Our mission is the same, to help solve the problem and the issue with cancer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Harris. What an amazing journey you have and a story to tell. And we're really excited about having you here tonight to share with us and to also hopefully answer some questions from our attendees. To get us started, and also attendees, if you do have questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. We will answer those in the order in which they are received. Mrs. Harris, how did you advocate for yourself after your misdiagnosis?
The first thing I went back to do is I talked to my primary care physician who believed that I had cancer from the beginning, and went back and talked to him about what could I do to make my life easier, what I needed to do. He said, you need to get you a nutritionist. You need to do these things, check on it regularly. I want you to come in more regular. I want to talk to you more. And he was my guiding tool through some of the process. But the most effective tool I had was I prayed. I prayed and I prayed, but I made myself a foundation of connecting with my family members. I had two brothers who are preachers, sisters and nephews, and we prayed on a weekly basis. And then I had a friend who works for EMAS, which is the walk.
Did we lose her?
Yeah, I'm wondering, did we lose her? This is Marilyn. Mrs. Harris, can you hear us?
Give her a minute. If she lost the signal, she'll come back. I'll send her a text.
Okay. Thank you so much.
If there are any other questions until we get her back, there are several other sisters on the call and we may be able to answer them if there are other questions in the chat.
Absolutely.
It looks like she muted herself.
I'm going to text her too.
Okay, well, we can go on to the next question. What piece of advice have you found to be the most useful for those who are survivors or currently dealing with breast cancer now? What piece of advice did you find to be the most useful in your journey?
What was most useful to me is that I had in connection with the doctors, because I talked to them very plain what I wanted to do, especially when I came to my double mastectomy. And he was saying, well, do you want big breasts? I said, no, I definitely don't. I just want to be healthy. I want you to give me what is best for me. I don't need to be showing off. I was 60 years old when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I certainly was not worried about no big breasts. I wanted to be healthy, and I wanted to be able to share that information with somebody else. I could care less about the size of my breasts. I was more concerned about my mental health. What was the next step after that? Whether I was going to be healthy, whether that when they put those false things in there, I don't even know what you call them. Anyways, I wanted to make sure that I could live a healthy life. And that was my focus, a healthy life.
Awesome. We do have a question in the chat for you from Miss Monica James. She says that since Black women tend to have dense breast tissue, could that be a factor in late detection?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, inflammatory breast cancer, it can give the appearance of an infection. And you get a peeling of redness in your breast, like a peeling of an orange and stuff. It's very deceptive, but it's so important that you go ahead and have, because it cannot be detected by a normal mammogram, cannot be detected by an ultrasound. The only way you can detect that is through a biopsy. So it's so important that you know those things. If you ever, I can only speak for inflammatory breast cancer, so I don't know the status of other people. But I know it's a very invasive cancer, and the outcome for Black women, it's not good. It's not good.
Hey, Marilyn, this is Zelma, and we were on a Zoom call last night with a panel of doctors, and I learned something myself last night, Gloria, from that call about dense breasts, since someone wanted to know about dense breasts. Yes, dense breasts can make it much more difficult to identify breast cancer. But what those doctors were saying last night is you definitely want to make sure you get a 3D tomosynthesis breast cancer, because mammogram, because it does the mammogram in slices, and they can see more through the breast to see if there is something there, because dense breast is more granular, and it's a white granular substance against a white background, so it's harder to detect. But they definitely recommend that you do the 3D, and that way hopefully they can see better through the denseness of your breast. And then you make sure you do that you do the tomosynthesis. You may have to do an ultrasound. Like Gloria said, you may even have to do a biopsy, but you be persistent and go by your doctor's lead, but be persistent. If they just say, well, you got dense breasts and we can't really tell, well, let me make sure I get a 3D. Let me make sure I get an ultrasound. Let me make sure I get an MRI. Go each step of the way until you know for sure.
Thank you so much. We have a question from Ms. Jamil Charlton on whether or not your slides can be shared with our attendees. And they also are curious as to how your organization receives funding. And then there's one more question here is, are you associated with Combined Federal Campaign as a charity organization?
Zelma would have to answer those questions.
Okay, yes, we are a part of the Combined Federal Campaign. On our website, the number is listed on several of our documents as to that number. And to make a donation, yes, just go to our website, www.sistersnetwork is centralvirginia.org. And we have a donate button on the menu. If you click on the 3 lines, which is the menu lines, there's a pink donate button, or on the very first page, there's a donate button. And we receive donations through an organization called DonorBox. And you can, you have to utilize a credit card or PayPal account. And we receive donations on a year-round basis. So we don't take it down after we do our big events. It's there all the time. And we appreciate any donation that anyone would like to make, because as Gloria explained, we do a BCAP program where we do help women going through the process with rent, like she said, utilities, co-pays, and also groceries. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to a social worker today, and she has a client, and she said, I think she's gotten some rent assistance, but I do know she's in need of food. And so I said, have her contact us. She'll have to fill out a BCAP application. But yes, we do provide financial assistance to women that are going through treatment.
That is
Was there another
great.
question? Was there another question?
No, I believe, let me just
it again?
double check. Will the slides, can they be shared with our attendees tonight?
Yeah, they can be shared. The last part of the presentation on the Black breast statistics, as Gloria said, they came from Ricky Farley, who started Touch, which is a breast cancer alliance of many, many, many breast cancer groups collaborating together. And Ricky provided us with those stats, and each slide is listed as to where that information came from. So she credited each slide with where the information came from.
Question from Ms. Dana Mayo. Where is Dr. Irvie?
Irvin, he's in Bon Secours Hospital.
So I noticed that you have a lot of different roles in your organization. There are your survivors and then your volunteers. So what do you think your biggest need is for your organization from a volunteer standpoint?
Volunteer, I think if we get them familiar with what our mission is, what our goals are, and they get a clear understanding, I don't think they would hesitate at all to come participate, want to be a member, and help us, because when we do get back to normal, once the COVID-19 pandemic is over, we want to get out there. We want to be able to go to the doors and knock and canvass and do all that. And we certainly need volunteers, associates, and survivors to support us. So I think that would be heading in the right direction. I just can't not wait till that occurs.
So to our attendees, we do have a few more minutes for more questions. I have another one for you, Mrs. Harris.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Chelsea Jones indicates that she knows that her family members can be very private about their health. Did you know your family history when you were diagnosed?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. It was so many years ago. My sister, I think she was in her early 30s when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. But she came out, she survived, and she passed maybe 5-10 years later. So, but according to the statistics, that's what they usually say occurs for Black women anyways. You only have, remember I mentioned that, 5 years of survival after you've been diagnosed with cancer. But I always say God is in charge, and I know he's never lost a patient. So that's where I put my trust. I put my trust in God. And when it's time for me to go, that means God has accepted it. That's what he wanted. Man may have his answers in terms of medicine, and I don't doubt that I had a good doctor, but I only know one man, Jesus, who never lost a patient.
Coming from a daughter of a father who was given 3 months and lived for 9.5 years.
Amen to that. I do have one more thing I'd like to add. That is, we welcome survivors and associates and stuff. We would like to let you know that join us every third Sunday at 4:30 p.m., currently via Zoom, for our monthly support group meetings. And we're located at 13354 Midlothian Turnpike, Suite 100, Midlothian, Virginia, 2313. For more information, you can contact us at this number, 804-447-4027. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. JL and Dana, do we have time for more questions? We have a few more in the chat.
Absolutely.
All righty, we are going to keep going. What does your organization mean by Stop the Silence?
That means if we fail to tell someone or share with someone who might be in need, or they want to feel comfortable. When someone comes to you, they want to be comfortable, but because of fear, a lot of people will not tell you that they had cancer or that they suffer from it. They want to keep it a silence. And that's what we mean. We don't want to be silent. We want to open our mouths. We want to shout about how good God has been and that they're making progress now that they didn't have years ago. Because when my sister had cancer, there was no such thing as ultrasound and reconstructive surgery. It didn't exist. But now we're making movements and improvement in that area. And that's what we want to do. Have no shame. We need to speak loud and clear.
So very right. Your next question, do you receive consistent support from Susan B. Komen grant programs?
I'm not familiar with that. Again, Zelma's more, she's been with Sisters Network for about 20 years, so she would have more information on that than I would.
We do not. Susan G. Coleman, you can fill out a grant, but what we found, to be honest with you, is typically we give them all of our information about the different programs that we do within Sisters Network, and they typically copy most of those programs. And then if we do get any money from a grant, it's usually not enough money to do the program that you put in for the grant. For example, if we fill out a grant and we say we need, $10,000 to carry out this particular program, and you have to explain the whole program, all about it, what you do, when you do it, I can only speak for our chapter, we may get $5,000. Well, if it took $10,000 to do the program and you only gave me $5,000, I can't really do the program effectively. And then we also found when we applied for their grants that there's just a lot of paperwork and a lot of follow-up when they don't give you enough money to fund the actual program. So we don't create programs just to receive grants. A lot of people do. They make that program fit a program, just to get a grant. We have specific programs as a national organization and as an affiliate company that we have to do. And so we try to fund those programs that we do and not create new programs just to get a grant. And the other difference is our organization is 100% volunteers. Gloria does not get paid for doing what she does with Sisters Network. I do not get paid. None of our members get paid. A lot of breast cancer organizations, they have a paid staff, and then they have volunteers. We are all volunteers. And so we don't create programs that we know we don't have volunteers to carry out just to get a grant. We try to fund the programs that are in existence. They're good programs, they're effective programs, and that's what we do.
Thank you so much for that response, and I appreciate your honesty on that, so we know best how to help support your team over there. We have unfortunately run out of time for questions, but I'm hoping what we can do is get these questions down from our chat and send them to you and Mrs. Harris for some responses that we can post to our attendees at a later time. Absolutely. Thank you so very, very much for your attendance and also your participation, Mrs. Harris. It was wonderful to again hear your story and provide education to our team. I do want to very much. I do want to let our team here know and our attendees here know that we will have a post-event survey. If you could please take your time to fill that out, let us know what you loved about it and what the things that we can do better so that we can be sure to bring more programming to you that is useful and educational and helpful. In addition to that, I do want to send in a couple of plugs. There will be a personal conversation with Miss Patricia Lancaster, also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, discussing her life as a survivor and an advocate tomorrow. Finally, we will round out the week with a social media campaign on men and breast cancer. So thank you for attending and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.